Building a city today is, it's really no longer like playing SimCity.
Oh, definitely not.
Right, like where you can just pause time, bulldoze a whole block, and, plop down shiny new residential zones.
If only it were that easy.
Yeah, exactly. Today, Montreal is basically trying to upgrade its entire operating system. It's undergoing this historic billion-dollar metamorphosis right this very second.
While 2 million people are actively walking, driving, and living inside the machine.
Exactly. Welcome to the deep dive. For you listening, we've got this massive stack of real estate and urban planning publications from March 1st through the 15th, 2026.
Lots of heavy reading this week.
So much reading, and we are unpacking exactly how the city is balancing, well, explosive growth, a severe housing crisis, and climate change, all while desperately trying to remain a human-scaled place for you to live.
Which is a massive tightrope act.
It really is. Okay, let's unpack this, because looking through these sources, the sheer scale of what is happening on the ground is, well, it's messy.
Oh, yeah.
It's wildly expensive, and it is endlessly fascinating.
What stands out immediately in these 2026 sources is this profound shift. It's a shift from purely speculative real estate, building just to build, to what they're calling purpose-driven urbanism.
Right, purpose-driven.
Yeah, meaning every single brick laid, every permit approved now has to rigorously justify its social and environmental impact.
Wow.
We are looking at a city completely rewriting its foundational rules. They're trying to force developers and homeowners alike to think about the next 50 years, not just the next fiscal quarter.
Let's start right at the foundation of that rulebook then. The 2050 Urban Planning and Mobility Plan.
Right, the PUM.
The PUM, exactly. The City of Montreal is currently in a dead sprint to harmonize regulations across all 19 of its boroughs,
which is no small feat.
Not at all. And they have set this massive target of 200,000 new housing units by 2050.
With a very strict mandate that 20% of those must be non-market housing.
Right, alongside 180 kilometers of new tramways. And right now, the borough of Rosemont Petite-Patrie is leading the charge on finalizing these new rules, with Ville-Marie and Le Sud-Ouest right on their heels.
And, for you, the regular homeowner, this fundamentally alters what you can do with your property.
How so?
Well, let's say you want to build an ADU.
An accessory dwelling unit, right?
Exactly, like a garden studio or a backyard suite for an aging parent. The 2050 PUM actively encourages this to, increase density.
Okay, that makes sense.
But you have to navigate a completely new vocabulary now and a new bureaucratic mechanism. You really need to know about the PIIA.
Oh, boy. Which stands for?
Site Integration and Architectural Program.
Right.
This means your project isn't just checked by an engineer for structural safety anymore. It is evaluated by a committee on aesthetics.
Wait, aesthetics?
Yeah, they are literally scrutinizing whether your brick color, your roof pitch, or your window shape harmonizes with the historical context of the neighborhood.
That sounds intense.
It is. And then on top of that, there is the PPC MOI.
Okay. That is quite the alphabet soup. What does that actually do in practice?
Basically, it functions as the city's localized rule breaker. It's the exception path.
The exception path, okay.
Yeah, imagine you want to build this modern, passive heating greenhouse on top of your Victorian duplex.
Right, to grow your own food, reduce your carbon footprint, all that.
Exactly. Standard zoning regulations would likely reject that immediately for violating height restrictions or, heritage sightlines.
Right. The PIA would probably hate it.
Probably. But if your project offers significant social or ecological value, the borough can use a PPC MOI to grant a specific targeted exception to approve it anyway.
Oh, that's actually really clever.
It is. And to help residents afford these new green standards, the city has heavily revamped financial aids, like the Wikiresidence program.
Oh, I've heard of that.
Yeah, it now offers up to $25,000 for installing high-efficiency heat pumps or adding heavy insulation or even putting in a green roof.
Okay, but wait. If the city desperately needs housing like yesterday, why add a PIA requirement? I mean, that tacks on an extra 2 to 4 months of permit delays just so a committee can argue about the aesthetic shape of a window cornice. We are in an acute housing shortage. Deliberately slowing down construction for aesthetics seems entirely counterintuitive.
I get that. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, it is a calculated trade-off.
How so?
The goal of the 2050 PUM isn't just maximum density at any cost. It is specifically gentle density.
Gentle density, okay.
The city is actively trying to avoid the catastrophic urban planning mistakes of the 1960s and 70s.
Oh, when they just leveled beautiful historic blocks to build generic concrete towers.
Exactly. This new plan aggressively protects heritage. In fact, boroughs are now making the demolition of any existing structure an absolute last resort.
Wait, really? An absolute last resort?
Yes, a developer has to mathematically and structurally prove a building is physically beyond repair before they are allowed to knock it down.
Wow.
So that 2 to 4 month PIIA delay is essentially the insurance premium the city is paying to ensure that as Montreal densifies, it doesn't lose its architectural soul.
Okay, that makes sense. But that structural shift in the rules only matters if there's demand. And the massive hardware driving the sudden rush to densify is the new transit infrastructure.
Oh, absolutely.
Specifically, the Réseau Express Metropolitan, the REM.
Right.
Spring 2026 is this historic turning point because the REM West Island branch is officially opening, and it is acting like a new major artery in the city's circulatory system.
It really is.
The moment you lay down this track, real estate capital flows directly to the stations, creating these hyper-dense clots of development.
Yeah, we are seeing property values within a 1-kilometer radius of these new stations surging by 15% to 25% almost overnight.
That is massive.
It's huge. And the contrast in how different areas are managing that surge is striking. Take the Death Sources station in the West Island.
What's happening there?
It is undergoing a massive transit-oriented development, or TOD, metamorphosis. They are building high-end rental complexes anchored by a massive 15.2-meter-high public plaza.
Oh, wow, that's huge.
Yeah, and it's designed specifically to act as an urban cool island to fight summer heat waves.
That's super smart.
But then you look at the terminus at Ancillarum, which is intentionally going the exact opposite direction.
How so?
It's being designed as an urban village that heavily prioritizes ecological preservation. They are keeping the built footprint minimal to protect the surrounding nature park.
Okay, but the physical train is only half the equation, right? You still have to get people to the stations.
Exactly. The last mile is the most critical vulnerability of any transit network.
Right.
The REM only functions at capacity if people can reach it without firing up a personal car. To solve this, the STM has introduced a highly optimized feeder model.
Like buses.
Yeah, they're running lines like the Express Route 475, which basically acts as a high-frequency shuttle, pulling commuters from deeper residential neighborhoods directly to the Dew Sources station.
And does it work?
It's so efficient that for many residents, it cuts their total commute time to downtown Montreal by over 50%.
See, here's where it gets really interesting. Think about what a 50% reduction in commute time does to a neighborhood's identity.
Oh, it changes everything.
Look at the town of Mount Royal, or TMR. This is historically a quiet, wealthy garden city, right? Filled with large lawns and tree-lined streets.
Exactly.
But starting now, because of the REM, it is less than 10 minutes from the downtown core. The town is scrambling to adapt. They're building a massive, multi-million-dollar deck park over the train tracks to finally unify the two halves of its historic center.
Which is an incredible project.
It is. But how does a quiet suburb maintain its character when 20,000 daily REM users are suddenly flowing through its borders?
It's a huge tension point.
The sources note that longtime residents are facing what's being called the downsizer dilemma.
What's fascinating here is the microeconomic behavior of these residents. Older homeowners who have lived in TMR for decades are selling their massive single-family homes.
Because the property values spiked.
Partially, but they're basically trading lawn care and roof maintenance for luxury condos built right next to the REM stations.
Oh, so they don't want to leave the neighborhood.
Right. They want that highly connected urban lifestyle, but they refuse to leave their community.
That makes total sense.
Meanwhile, around the Kenora station, there is an absolute explosion of micro-renovations. New buyers are snapping up older, unrenovated single-family homes and immediately pouring like $200,000 to $500,000 into deep retrofits.
$500,000 just on a retrofit.
Yeah, because they are acting with complete confidence. The sheer presence of the REM guarantees their long-term return on investment. The train is literally rewriting the financial reality of the soil it runs over.
Okay, but those massive transit hubs are largely capturing luxury and middle-class density.
Yes.
A family struggling to pay rent isn't doing a $500,000 renovation near Kenora Station. The market alone isn't going to solve the acute housing crisis for vulnerable populations.
Definitely not.
So the sources show the city getting incredibly creative, taking direct action with the land it already owns.
Yeah, the city realized it can no longer wait for private developers to benevolently build affordable housing. Montreal is leveraging its own strategic land plots
To what, exactly?
to stimulate the construction of about 2,000 to 3,000 housing units by 2027 or 2028. By owning the land, the city dictates the terms.
Right.
Sites like the Namur Hippodrome, which, by the way, is slated to be a massive net-zero carbon neighborhood, and Lachine Est now mandate a minimum of 20% social housing built right into the master plan.
That's significant, but how do nonprofits afford to build that?
To ensure they can actually afford it, the city deployed a $3 million funds plancher.
Okay, what is that?
This fund provides up to $250,000 in pre-development loans to nonprofits to cover the early, really risky costs.
Oh, like architectural blueprints and soil testing.
Exactly. It gets these vital projects off the ground.
And they aren't just utilizing empty dirt either. Let's look at the Suddoest borough.
Yes, the canal.
Right. The permanent shift to remote work has left office vacancy rates sitting painfully high, between 15% and 20%. But instead of letting these buildings sit as empty ghost towns, historic industrial spaces along the Lachine Canal on St. Patrick Street are being gutted.
Gutted and entirely converted into housing.
Yes. We are looking at massive interventions, like 4,000 St. Patrick, which is an $85 million investment yielding 180 units.
And Les Ateliers du Canal.
Right, a $60 million project carving out 110 loft-style studios.
And the mechanics of these conversions are staggering. It costs developers around $350 per square foot to convert an old office building into residential space.
Wait, why is it so expensive?
Because when a building is designed for office workers, all the plumbing is centralized in a central core. One set of bathrooms per floor.
Oh, right.
To convert that to housing, you have to literally core drill through 12 inches of 1970s post-tension concrete hundreds of times.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, just to run individual plumbing, sewage, and HVAC lines to 180 distinct apartments.
That sounds like a nightmare.
It is. And furthermore, to combat the urban heat island effect, the city forces these developers to add 30% supplemental tree canopy on these private lots.
Wait, hold on. At $350 a square foot just to retrofit the plumbing and HVAC of an outdated commercial building, why wouldn't a developer just bulldoze the empty structure and throw up cheap modular housing?
It's a fair question.
Like, the math seems completely upside down.
In a vacuum, yeah. Demolition might look cheaper on a spreadsheet, but the carbon footprint of demolishing a concrete structure and manufacturing thousands of tons of new cement is astronomical.
Oh, and that's exactly what the 2050 PUM is designed to legally restrict.
Exactly. Beyond the carbon and the massive legal hurdles we discussed earlier with the PIIA, it is about preserving the social fabric.
The soul of the neighborhood.
Precisely. The heavy industrial bones of the Lachine Canal are what give the Suddoest its identity. By retrofitting rather than replacing, you transform a sterile 9-to-5 commuter zone that goes dead after dark into a vibrant 2047 resident economy.
I love that term, resident economy.
Yeah, you keep the historical soul of the neighborhood, but you radically change its function.
And that need to change function without losing history isn't just a housing issue. Montreal's most iconic heritage sites and massive educational institutions are undergoing the exact same symbiotic upgrades to serve the community in entirely new ways.
A brilliant example of this is the Van Horn complex up in the Plateau.
Oh, that massive 1924 concrete warehouse at number 1 Van Horn.
That's the one. They are preserving the entire structure, transformed the inside into a boutique hotel and artist studios, but they are physically attaching it via a massive light-filled glass atrium to a brand new $145 million 4-story tech office right next door to number 55.
And the mechanical solution they used is so clever.
It really is.
Because to meet modern commercial zoning requirements, a tech hub needs parking. But you cannot easily or safely dig an underground garage beneath a century-old concrete warehouse without risking structural collapse.
Right, the foundation just wouldn't hold up.
So they put all 50 required underground parking spots strictly beneath the new building at number 55.
Yep.
The new structure effectively absorbs the modern infrastructural burden, allowing the 1924 building to remain untouched. It is an elegant symbiosis.
It really is beautifully done.
And it's not just tech money driving this. We also have the new $36.5 million Sun Youth headquarters opening in Villeray.
Sun Youth is such a century-old community pillar, and the engineering behind their new facility is phenomenal.
What did they do?
The building is entirely carbon neutral. Because Montreal winters are famously brutal, They couldn't rely on standard natural gas heating if they wanted to hit zero emissions.
Well, what's the alternative?
They drilled 25 deep geothermal wells beneath the property.
Wow.
Yeah, these wells tap into the stable temperature of the earth deep underground to heat the building in winter and cool it in summer.
That's incredible.
And this massive facility helps nearly 96,000 people a year. The food bank itself was entirely redesigned to look, feel, and flow like a modern, well-lit grocery store, providing a much more dignified experience for families.
Then you have Polytechnique Montreal undergoing a staggering $356 million modernization.
Yeah, updating incredibly sensitive, high-tech quantum photonics and robotics labs.
But alongside the tech, they are executing this massive biodiversity initiative. They are planting 22,000 native plants across the campus.
And actually installing specialized wildlife barriers.
Right. Why? To physically prevent Mount Royal's native brown snakes from wandering into the construction zones and high-tech facilities.
Ensuring the local ecology isn't disrupted by the expansion.
Which is amazing. But looking at the Van Horn Tech Hub, the Sun Youth Food Bank, and the Polytechnique campus, a striking pattern emerges.
Concrete is out.
Concrete is out, and hyper-green, highly engineered integration is in. But I have to wonder, how are these developers and university boards justifying these massive green budgets to the people holding the purse strings?
Right.
Geothermal wells and snake barriers are not cheap.
This raises an important question about how the definition of return on investment has fundamentally evolved.
Okay.
ROI isn't just about maximizing next month's rent collection anymore. It is about future-proofing massive assets against inevitable, much stricter climate regulations coming in the next decade.
Ah, so getting ahead of the curve.
Exactly. For a commercial project like the Van Horn Tech Office, a heavily green, carbon-neutral building is now a baseline requirement to attract top-tier tech talent and high-paying corporate tenants.
Because they have their own ESG mandates to fulfill.
Exactly. And for nonprofits and institutions like Sun Youth and Polytechnique, these aggressive green initiatives are exactly the mechanisms required to secure the massive provincial and federal infrastructure grants that make the projects financially viable in the first place.
So good ecology has literally become the prerequisite for good economics.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of the ultimate return on investment for all this green space, safe streets, and neighborhood design, we have to look at who's actually using these plazas and parks the most.
This is my favorite part of the data.
We finally have hard data from the city's most overlooked demographic.
This was perhaps the most revealing document in the entire stack.
Huh.
Concertation Montreal released a report titled Raconte-moi ta ville.
Tell me about your city.
Exactly. Instead of asking adult commuters what the city needs, they completely bypassed the adults. They directly consulted 111 children ranging from 4 to 12 years old.
Wow, they asked 4-year-olds.
Yeah, across 11 different parks and 4 early childhood centers. They simply asked the kids how the city should be designed.
I absolutely love the specifics that came out of this. Adults look at a city as a grid to navigate as fast as possible. Kids view the city as a series of micro-destinations.
Yes.
The children demanded safe, playful pathways that are entirely separated from fast-moving cars. They want a massive reduction in gray, space-like concrete and asphalt in favor of interactive nature.
Like trees designed for climbing and water features they can actually play in.
Yes. And they explicitly rejected rigid plastic play modules in favor of raw structures that allow for free, imaginative play.
They even asked for street libraries and public pianos out in the open.
It's so great. The ultimate irony here is that for decades, city planners used complex traffic algorithms and supercomputers to design cities optimized for machines.
Right.
But when we literally handed the blueprints to a 4-year-old, they organically designed an environment perfectly optimized for human longevity, community health, and what highly paid urban planners call the 15-minute city.
This is incredible.
We didn't need a supercomputer, we needed a kindergartner.
And the profound thing is the hard economic impact of listening to them.
How so?
If urban planners and developers build a neighborhood where a 6-year-old can safely walk to a park or a street library without crossing 4 lanes of high-speed traffic, their parents will choose to settle in that neighborhood long-term.
Oh, retaining families.
Exactly. Retaining families in the urban core is the single most effective way a city fights suburban sprawl and secures its municipal tax base for the next generation.
That makes total sense.
Furthermore, there is a deep social mechanism at play. Children who actively participate in designing their public spaces feel a sense of ownership over them, which drastically reduces long-term vandalism and maintenance costs.
Oh, that's a fascinating secondary benefit.
And from an accessibility standpoint, designing a city that is safe and comfortable for a child perfectly mirrors the mechanical needs of seniors.
Oh, wow, of course.
Both demographics require frequent shade, abundant benches, and strict safety from fast cars. When you build a city optimized for a 4-foot-tall resident, you inadvertently create an accessible, resilient environment that serves absolutely everyone.
Okay, let's take a beat and look at the ground we've covered today. For you listening, we've seen how Montreal is literally rewriting its DNA from the ground up.
It's a massive shift.
We unpack the mechanism of the 2050 PUM regulations, prioritizing gentle density and heritage over quick concrete. We looked at how the REM is acting as a massive circulatory artery, reshaping the financial reality of the suburbs.
And the heavy engineering required to upcycle ghost town offices along the Lachine Canal.
Exactly. Plus the geothermal wells powering massive institutions and the brilliant economic simplicity of letting children design our streetscapes.
It's all connected.
It is.
Well,
Whether you are a prospective investor eyeing a property near a new transit hub, someone planning a backyard garden studio, or just someone walking down St. Patrick Street, you are now equipped to see the invisible forces, the regulations, and the billions of dollars of investment actively reshaping the city right before your eyes.
the sheer scale of the transformation is remarkable. But I want to leave you with one final lingering question to ponder as you navigate the city this week. With billions of dollars pouring into these hyper-dense, highly green 15-minute hubs clustered strictly around REM stations and major heritage sites, what happens to the spaces left between these transit bubbles? As Montreal rockets toward its 2050 goals, will we inadvertently create a brand new urban divide? A split between the ultra-connected, wealthy, REM-adjacent zones and those quiet neighborhoods left waiting for the bus.
Upgrading the operating system is incredible, unless you're the one left running on the old software. A huge question to keep in mind. Thank you so much for taking this deep dive with us today.